Okay, so we have our first prototype here from the Game Crafter, which we're really excited to get because it's a pretty good version of the game, and we're excited to see it getting closer and closer to production. We have our box art and cover here. It looks fantastic from Game Crafter, and really thrilled with the quality we're getting. So we're going to take a look at all the components in our game, Bees Lives, We Only Know Summer. This game is a resource management game, and you're working in a hive, collecting resources and earning victory points. So one of the big things then is our resources in the game. So there are three main resources in the game. We have our pollen resource, which we all are represented by these cubes here. We have some water and honey, which is the most important resource. And you get quite a few of these cubes in the game. There's also a chit that represents these resources as you go out and collect them from our tiles. And that, you know, the main thing of this game is having the best hive, and one of the ways to have a best hive is through collecting these resources, which allow you to have babies, feed your bees, cool your hive. One of the best things we've done in this game, or the things that I really like that we have in this game, is meeples. We've created our own bee meeples in the game. We have, you know, this is a little bee. There's also, each player has a little hive that represents them on the map as to where their house is located. There's just a little point token here to track your player as you continue to earn victory points through swarming and attacking, and in winter through collecting your honey. And then every player also gets this little red meeple. It's a little, bees get little mites as they go out in the world, and so we keep track of how many mites you have in the game. And everybody, there's up to 4 players in this game, so then there's 4 different colors of meeples, and so we have a good quantity of meeples in this game. And so there's 4 different colors. We've got purple, teal, yellow, and pink right now in our prototype. And, you know, meeples are just great. So that was awesome that we were able to get those done for the game. Another part of the game is dye. You know, so we have 2 different types of dye in the game. We have a 4-sided dye. That dye is used in the combat system between fighting the players, and there's also something called wild hives in this game. Those pop up through swarming, and there's also seasonal cards that you get for each month of the year, which also sometimes will allow you to randomly get a wild hive, or even have a wild hive just automatically appear or spawn on the board. So we use the 4-sided die in that combat. Then the 6-sided die is kind of the randomness that will show up with the wild hives in the seasonal cards. And so we have this lovely little board here with the cards. We have 3 seasons that you play through. There's also winter, but you don't actually play through it the same way, as the bees are just trying to survive during winter. And so each season gets 3 months, and we keep track of those months through this board. And the cards that we use on the board we have right here. And so there's the 3 seasons of cards. There's 9 cards in each season. This game can be played for multiple years, potentially. So for 1 year, you would need at least 3 cards in your season. So you start out with your spring season, which is this card here. We have our pink-leafed tree. And for example, on this card, we have First Bloom. And in that month for spring, all the tiles will provide 1 more pollen when foraged. So that card gives you a good effect during gameplay. And so we have that. Then we have our summer cards, which are the yellow, nice, bright sun cards. Summer is really one of the more difficult seasons, and very important in your hive's growth. The summer cards have the nice green foliage. And this card here, we've got the humid days, when in summer it's more likely to have this overheating in effect, which means you have to collect water to keep your hive cool to have more babies. And in this card particularly, you actually have to collect a little more water than normal when overheating's in effect. So that card kind of isn't as easy as some of the other cards. And the last season is fall. And our fall cards have the orange leaves. And this card is buttoned up. And this effect on this one is that every player skips their brood phase, which means at the end of the month they're unable to have any new babies. So obviously that would play into your strategy too for the gameplay. And we also have some player aid cards here. Each player will get one of these seasonal resource cards. There's map tiles that we place down, and I'll show you those in a little bit here. And during each season, you know, spring, summer, fall, the tiles, the bloom, wilt, harvest, and wet tiles will give you different resources depending on the season. And certain tiles do better in certain seasons, like the bloom tile is best in spring, the wilt tile is best in summer, the harvest tile is best in fall, and the wet tile generally stays the same, but it's the one tile that you can always get water at. So, you know, that's really important as part of the gameplay as the map resources change as the seasons continue. Then we have our general monthly sequence card that each player will receive, which lets you know what you have to do every month. You know, there's an order to the game. And the last one here is all about our wild hives. So we have our wild hive card here that tells you what the wild hives do in the game. They come up through randomly through the cards. They also come after hive swarms. Then that goes and creates a new hive with the bees that left. And that's all kept track on this board. This is our wild hive board. You can have up to 8 wild hives. The wild hive strength can vary from 1, which is a relatively easy hive to remove from the board, up to 14, which is a very difficult hive to deal with on the board. As these hives are on the board, they are also going out and gathering resources and blocking tiles or attacking your hive. So these wild hives will become part of the gameplay and can become difficult to deal with. So they are an interesting part of the gameplay, and they really make the game quite interesting and fun. Another board we get in the game is our player boards. Player boards are basically your beehive. Over here are all the actions that can be taken in a turn or during a turn. Here would be where all of your bees are positioned within your hive. Up here is your queen. Everybody gets to pick a queen. The queen gives you special abilities that can help you get victory points, can help you when you're fighting, can just make it so your disease is a little bit easier, or that you possibly have more babies. Over here is where you would start with keeping your honey and your pollen. It can be expanded up into more areas. And over here is where you keep track of your disease. As your disease goes up, you also lose the ability to hatch eggs. So you got to keep track of your disease, otherwise you won't be able to have new baby bees, which can become a big problem. Another thing is that you have to have in the game, if you want to know who wins, is our victory point tracker. It currently goes up to 40. If you happen to round around, we have a victory point token of 40 points. And it's everybody keeps track of how many victory points they get. You earn victory points in the gameplay during the months, the spring, summer, and fall, through swarming and attacking other hives or wild hives. And in winter, when you're trying to survive, you gain victory points by how many bees that you have surviving and how much honey you have during the winter months at the end. Now, the gameplay is all taking place on a map, and the map is here on our little, we have all these different tiles here. This is our wilt tile and our harvest tile down here, the orange. And those are all go inside of this bag here, which is randomly, you draw which map tiles you pick out when you take a scouting effect. And, you know, and we kind of generate this map between all the players, and that's where you go to try and find your resources. So the map is entirely random. We have these little markers here. These are our wild hive markers to kind of show where the wild hives are going on the map, if they're attacking people, you know. So it's a way to keep track of what the wild hives are doing. Then we have more tiles here. We have more of the harvest and some spring tiles down here. These are the wild hive tokens that go onto the map. Here is that 40 point token I was talking about for keeping track of your points. This little like construction kind of icon is your hive marker, because your hive starts at, inside of your player board you have a hive that starts at 10, and you can increase the size of that hive. So this is a little token to help you see how big your hive is. Also in this game, you know, there's sometimes where you might have a month where you have really a bad month, and we want you to still play the game, so you can take 2 negative victory points so that you can revive a bee. So that's what that little token there does. We have more tiles on our map tiles on here. We have our wet tile and our bloom tile, and more of the wild hive markers. And the last little punch board, these punch boards are really cool because they're custom made with the Game Crafter. But we have, this was that chit I was talking about where you can have your 5 honey, and you can use this chit to represent 5. On the back side we've got pollen, so you can use it versatilely for whatever you have most of. Here's our first player token over here, so because you gotta keep track of your first player. And these are our queen tokens, so you've got an aggressive queen. She's great with attacking and defending the hive. We have the clean queen. She basically keeps the hive nice and tidy. The disease marker generally goes up about 1/2 as much, and she really keeps the hive nice and clean. On the backside we have our swarms frequently queen. She'll swarm a lot more often than a typical hive. And our prolific queen, who will have more babies than the other queens. So there's lots of different strategies with this game, and you know, we're really excited for everybody to get playing on this game, and it's awesome to see this very professional looking prototype from the Game Crafter. Thank you very much, and I hope you guys check out our game, Bees Lives We Will Only Know Summer.